Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm at the workbench as you can see today, doing a lot of distributor work. I've got two 59Ds, a 45D here, and a 25D that all need to be recurved to various specs. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do today. Just thought I'd give you a little shot at what the bench looks like when I'm doing these kind of projects. Now, I like to do my distributors in batches because it just makes the workflow a lot easier. All of the new Powerspark distributors utilize basically the same architecture until the 65D. So 25, 45, and 59 internally are all identical. So I can go ahead and modify these sort of the same way using similar weights and spring adjustments as needed to get the curve I want. I also have an additional four 65Ds just off camera over there, two original Lucas ones, and then two new Powerspark ones that need recurving as well. But I'll go ahead and do those separately since they are slightly different in their spring configuration and the way I make the adjustments. So here's what I mean by similar architecture. So 59D and the 25D, same modules, same reluctor rings, different breaker plates, but it's just because the 25D needs to utilize this spring for the vacuum module. I recently had a chance to do a distributor for a Mark II Jaguar, and it had the same setup internally inside the distributor, except that it had a 6-pin reluctor ring, since the Jag is a 6-cylinder motor, instead of the 4 setup. So even with the larger engine setups, they tried their best to manage their costs by maintaining the same setup and just changing out how the reluctor system works on those distributors, which I thought was really cool. Cost savings, and it maintained the high performance that these systems have. So with the reluctor ring, as you can see here, this is essentially a square pattern for the magnetic sensor to pick up. And as long as the clearance is correct on here and this module doesn't move, except under vacuum conditions, you have really crisp timing that occurs with these systems. That's why I like them. Also, these the module that doesn't have any paint is the high power module, and that's all I buy now are just the high power versions, because whenever I go out to do tuning, all I want is the best performance I possibly can, and that's what I get out of these high power systems. So even though this will go into a car using a 25D design, it's still getting the same power output as the 59D over here, and as well as the 65D. So this is essentially modern technology in the older design, which is fantastic. So any 60s car, 850, 998 that would have originally had a points condenser can be upgraded into the 90s era technology basically. But I'm going to go ahead and strip all these down, and I'll go ahead and do all the recurving work. But I'll show you guys what they all look like next to each other, since I have to do all four of these at the same time. So here you can see I've got all four center shafts out of each one of these distributors, and they're essentially the same, little bit different machining work around here between the 59 and the 25 for obviously A plus versus A series. So A series here on the right, A plus here on the left. But the key is that the weight mechanisms and the springs are basically identical on all four of these, which makes them easy to modify because it's the same process on all four of them. The only difference is what the curves will be like on the these two A plus here versus these A series ones. But I just want to show you guys that another one of those cost savings things that they've done is to just make all the machining identical to make it easy to build these units. So one of the first things I like to do is I like to wipe off all this this grease. I always seem to find a bit of grit in here, so I just like to get it all out of here first. Also, it tends to fling off when I'm doing my advanced testing in my machine, so better to get off here than to end up all over my shirt. But yeah, you can see there's the grit from the machining process. So even if you don't have the ability to recurve these units, it's worth at least coming in here and getting rid of all this machining grit that's just hanging out waiting to wear out the bearing surfaces. This is one of the downsides of these units. They just seem to have not the best cleaning quality control. But this is why I go through every single one before I recurve them and check them for problems, and this is just one I always seem to run into. The other place that I end up having to clean out is in here, so I will take this center shaft off and clean up all this Typically I do that when I do my advanced curve work, so I'll have this off to do all that, and I'll do it to all 4 of them as well. The other place I need to clean is obviously the other half of the bearing surface down in here, so I'll run a brush with some solvent down there and clean that up, and yeah, just clean up some of the grease, clean up these housings. There's usually a bit of grit in here as well. Again, just a simple wipe down is usually sufficient, although sometimes these things can be quite dirty. So that one wasn't too bad. But yeah, you can see there's a little bit of grit there. So just give them a good clean. That's all it needs to happen. Let's see how this one looks. Yeah, same thing. This one's got grit in it too. So I'll wipe them all down, and then I'll start working on the advanced curves next. So now that we've got it all apart, I will start by selecting the advanced curve I want to give to these units, and that's controlled by the stop here on the advanced cam. So I'll go ahead and measure each one, and then add or subtract material depending on what type of curve I need to get out of each one of these units. And then once I've done all the advanced curve work, I can then move on to dealing with the springs and setting the advance rate with the springs. So here I am, checking the total advance before I make any modifications, and this unit goes through about 18 degrees or so. And when I make my adjustment, it's going to go down to about 11, maybe 11 and a half when I'm done. So here we go, checking my total advance is about 11 and a half degrees all in. Perfect for this 25D build. Alright, so now that I've limited the advance to what I wanted, in this case this one got an 11 and a half, this one got a 12. I made one of these 59Ds a 13, I think. Yeah, 13 degrees, and then this was another 12. The 13 degree one, I'm thinking I might run into a car, an emissions car, so I may need a few extra degrees of timing to work out that car. But either way, those are the kind of amounts that I went for. Now, you saw they were originally 20, so I did take out quite a bit of the advanced cam motion to get down to 11 and a half and a 12. So next step is to sort out the springs. And each one of these is going to be subtly different from each other. I like to have a variety of distributors on hand when I go to do tuning, just in case I put one in and it's a little too aggressive. I can have a secondary option that may not be as aggressive as the first. So I like to have a few different curves available when I go to do my tuning. Anyway, but I'll move on to the springing phase, and we'll get all 4 of these sorted out. So just in case you were thinking, well, what's the difference between 11 and a half and a 13 degree? Well, it'd be 1.5 degrees. But you have to remember, when talking about distributor numbers, you have to multiply them by 2. So an 11.5 degree curve is actually 23 degrees of total timing, whereas a 13 degree cam is actually 26 degrees of timing. So fairly large difference between these two in terms of their total timing. Now, the second question you may be asking is, well, how do you know where to start with the springs? Well, I went through a lot of trouble to go through and test a number of springs for primary and secondary. So I have my advanced numbers and how they react with the 25D distributors, or 45 or 59. So I just reference my information there, make up a spring, and then fit it to the distributor and put it in the machine, see what the characteristics are like. If it needs to be faster or slower, I'll make modifications to the spring, or make another spring with the different characteristics that I need. And then I can move on to the secondary and do the same thing. The only difference between the secondary and the primary is the secondary has this amount of free play, so that controls when the secondary comes into motion. So that takes some time to get that set up right, and also to pick the spring as well. But the primary is the easier of the 2 springs to deal with, since it's always acting at all times. I don't have to worry about any of the free play adjustment in it. All right, so here we go. Giving the first primary spring a test, and I want to hit about 1,000 RPMs around 7.5 degrees. So we'll just get this thing going here. Yeah, I think we're about 7 or so. But it looks like the speed display is showing about 800 RPMs, so I chose poorly in my first choice on spring. I need to go to a slightly stronger one. So I've chosen a new spring, one with a few less coils, a little bit stronger, and we're now reaching 7.5 degrees at just over 1,000 RPMs. We're at 1055 here, so that will be absolutely perfect for this application. So I thought I'd go ahead and show the two springs side by side. You can see that this one is a little longer, and I'm making a slightly shorter version of it to give the correct speed on this advanced curve. Again, this is why we need to check and measure everything, because you just don't know how it's going to react until you get it installed in the mechanism. I thought this one was going to be the perfect one based on my notes, but turns out it needed to be slightly stronger, so I had to make adjustments. So now what I need to do is turn my attention to the secondary over here. So on this one, I need to pick a spring that's slightly stronger than I need it to be, and then open up the hoops to give the necessary free play so that it doesn't come on too early. So around 1,000 RPMs distributor speed, where this one was reaching that point, I need the secondary to engage, and then the two springs will work side by side all the way up to full advance, around 4,000 RPMs or so. So I'm going to go ahead and find a spring for this, and we'll go ahead and test it. So I fitted a secondary spring, and as you can see, when I move this around, it doesn't engage until about 10 degrees or so, and then it actually activates for the second half of the operation. So I'm going to go ahead and test this and see what I get. Now, I'm looking for about 11.5 degrees of total advance, around 2,000 RPMs or thereabouts. All right, so let's go ahead and start the test. Now, I'm just going to focus on the speed so that we can find out exactly when we hit 11.5 degrees. And that spring gave us 1958. So that one was actually perfect right off the bat. So I'm really pleased with that. So that takes care of setting the curve and the profile on this one. Now it's time to go through the rest of these and do the same process. And just like that, I now have 4 fully curved distributors all ready to go back into their bodies. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and lubricate these shafts, lubricate the housings, and I'll get it all reassembled. Well, that was fun. So they're all back together, and I did lubricate the central shaft, and I also oiled the rotor underneath the rotor arm on that little felt pad in all these units, which, by the way, you should do on any distributor, not just these ones. So now I just need to wrap them up, put them back in their boxes, and they're all ready for stock. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.